Hey everyone, welcome back to the Proactive Happiness Management series. In today's episode, we are going to talk about hiring. So if you're a new manager or you're aspiring to be a manager, whether you like it or not, hiring is now your job. So let's talk a little bit about some things to consider when you are entering hiring mode. So the first thing I like to tell people is to kind of take an inventory of your team. Make sure you have a good understanding of the way your team is wired, all the individual components that you have on your team, and think about whether there's anywhere from a personality standpoint that you may want to incorporate a different element. So I like to encourage people to consider both their current needs, but then also succession planning. Succession planning is something that people kind of tend to forget about sometimes. But for example, if you have a current need on your team of somebody who's a doer, right? Somebody who can really prepare, you need to look across the team and see if you have other people who are at the same level who are very eager to start getting in a promotion position. Because sometimes what you'll run into is if you bring somebody into your team and they're at that same level and they are eager to be promoted, so say they're taking this position with the expectation of a promotion within the next year or two, well, if you already have somebody on your team who has that same expectation, you're going to have a problem. So you need to be mindful of that and try and stagger the tenure of the individuals on your team so that you have a nice flow of succession rather than ending up with a bottleneck and having to choose between people. Because inevitably what will happen if you find yourself in that position, you're going to have to pick one. They can't both move into the next role, right? So you pick one. Well, then a lot of times what will happen is that other individual who did not get selected will be a little bit disappointed and may find another place to go. So you try to avoid that by staggering your levels and keeping in mind succession planning. So when we talk about looking at these candidates for your position, people that you're considering hiring, be mindful of what the dynamic is on your team. Okay, so if you have a super introverted team, if you have a lot of people who don't spend time socially together outside of work, you can take two approaches. One, you can either bring somebody in who brings in that social element, or two, you can bring in somebody else who is extremely introverted like the remainder of the team. The challenge that you run into if you do bring in somebody who is introverted like the rest of the team is that you all think the same way, right? So bringing in somebody who has a different kind of approach to things will bring in some new ideas, some new perspectives, and things like that. I talk in some of the other episodes about being an introverted manager and some things that you can do when it comes to hiring to help some of the cohesion on the team and bringing people together, in slightly different elements like going out to lunch or doing happy hours and things like that. So what I reference in the other episodes is if you are more of an introverted manager, consider hiring somebody who brings in the right skill set, but who also has the elements of the social aspect, who really enjoys planning activities, bringing everybody together. Sometimes it's good to kind of force people to get up away from their desks and go take their mind off of work for a little bit and talk about stuff that's not necessarily work related. That's how those bonds within the team are created and how you can really form a strong, cohesive team that wants to do their best, not just in their job, but also to help each other out. So those are some things that I would consider keeping in mind. So once you have this, kind of your main criteria lined out in your mind, when you sort through those resumes, think about that. Apply that logic to your resume review. So if you are looking for somebody, let's say, for example, that you have some folks that are 2 years out of college and you have some folks that have been with the company for 30 years. You need someone in the middle, right? If you're looking for somebody to start grooming to be in a leadership position, find somebody who displays those characteristics in their resume. Look for signs of, volunteering, taking, leadership positions within different groups, things like that demonstrate those leadership skills. If you're looking for somebody to be a doer, say you've got 4 people on your team who are already hoping and waiting for that next management opportunity, and you have no one below them, you need to bring in some lower level folks, some folks with less tenure. And maybe depending on how you want to structure your group, if you're not looking for you're just looking for somebody to be a preparer, Keep that in mind. Look for somebody who doesn't necessarily want those management opportunities, because not everybody does. And that's important to consider as well. And when you're looking at all of this and assessing the current status of your team, make sure you're looking at it from their perspective, not from yours, right? So in our Building Trust video, we talk about getting to know your team on a deeper level. This is one of the places that comes into play. Make sure you really know what these people want out of their careers. Don't assume that so-and-so wants a promotion because that's what you wanted when you were in their position, because that's not necessarily true for people. Easy fix, ask them, right? So make sure you have a solid handle on that when you think about moving into the hiring process and who you're going to bring in as your next superstar to fill your needs. So, the other thing that I will mention that will frequently come up in hiring decisions is to remember that it's not always going to work out as you expect, okay? That is inevitable. You will make hiring mistakes. Some people will absolutely blow your mind. They will be so fantastic and so perfect for the role. Others will disappoint you. It's just part of life. And the other thing that may happen that you need to be prepared for is when you look out across your current team and the current state of things, and you make a hiring decision based on that, guess what? Things can change. And that can be really disheartening. You know, you make all these decisions based on the current composition of the team, you bring in the perfect candidate, and then somebody gives their notice and completely changes the dynamic of everything. It's Murphy's Law. Sometimes it will happen. So just remember to be prepared that that might happen from time to time. But in general, hiring can be such a great thing because it's your first chance to start building your own team, right? You're not using somebody else's team now. You can really build your own team and your own vision and make it your own. So take advantage of the opportunity and embrace the hiring. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We look forward to seeing you next time. And don't forget to subscribe. All right, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.